What's up, everybody? Oh, there we go. There he is, dude. What's going on, everybody? Andrew Cooper here, Fantasy Alarm. And this is a very special show for me and for us today because I have my good buddy here. This is a guy that I have done more hours of shows with than any other person. I'm not talking about 100 hours, I'm talking about hundreds of hours of shows. And in my opinion, this guy here, honestly, within the industry, it's pretty well regarded that he's one of the best podcast show
Stop
hosts in the
it.
fantasy space. But in my opinion, it's him and Howard Bender, top two for me. So without further ado, my guy Simon Groeneveld, how are we doing, brother? I have half of mine just to hand it over and have you host the show.
Absolutely not. I've been looking forward to sitting back and just causing trouble for you as the co-host since you invited me back on here. Coop, what you forgot to mention there is not only do we have thousands of hours, we did most of that in the course of like 4 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like thousands of hours over the course of decades. And we've been like we were like, nope. And this season we're gonna do 10,000 hours of streams together. We got close fast, but I'm so happy to be up here with you. Excited you invited me on to do a best ball draft.
Hell yeah, dude. Ani Coop in the house with she was there for a lot of that. A lot of people in the chat, our show, we have the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show, 3 hours every morning, man. And it's honestly, dude, I miss it so much just hanging out with the boys. But the thing is, we still have a lot of platforms to hang out. We have a lot of hours to do. So why don't you jump in and join? So here's what we're doing today on the show, folks. I asked the Fantasy Alarm crew, I was like, what do you guys want to do? We got the draft coming up. We have a bunch of stuff going on. Undoubtedly, and without debate, the answer was one more best ball draft. That's what people want to do right now. And then the next few shows we'll get into, we got like Andy Hall coming on from with the dynasty stuff. Thor Nystrom's going to come on, but the draft's still a couple weeks away. So we're going to knock out another family best ball draft. If you're not set up now, we do them on a lot of platforms, but the primary one we do is Underdog. Go get set up with Underdog right now. Use promo code ALARM. There's a link in the description, a little QR code there. Matt, look at the QR code master right there in front of Simon. Click that, check the link. They'll match up to $100, 100% of whatever you deposit when you do that. So go get set up now. And then, of course, get yourself a membership at Fantasy Alarm. It's 40% off for the year now. And you could get in these and draft with us. And Simon, I added a little wrinkle this year. I created a bunch of, which was kind of a pain. I created a bunch of badges for Fantasy Alarm members. So like join one, you get a little badge. If you win one, you get a trophy. If you win multiple, you get a crown.
I'll do anything for a badge.
That's
like
what
websites that have badges and achievements, you've locked me in, man.
That's what I feel too. You know what stinks though? Moderators can't get the badges. I actually emailed the guy that created the bot. I was like, dude, you gotta fix this so the admins can have, because I want badges too. You know what I mean? So I don't have one, but a bunch of guys in the chat do. So the guy picking one here, I'll give a quick rundown. Blade, this is his very first one. That's our guy, Jarrett. Voico, Chicago, Panchos, Pancherio, Icy Through. These guys do a ton with us. Sigma, El Castel, that's Mile High Luke. And it's his very first one here, Simon. You know Mile High Luke from a bunch of our shows here. Voice and Fuego is Troy, our good buddy there. And then we got Gringo Loco is CDM and Obi-Wan Outlaw. Adam Panda and Kismet. Kismet is Jack Straw in the chat. He is the only person to win 2 last year. So he's the only one that has the crown emoji in the chat, Simon.
Hey, well, he's the one to beat.
He's the one to
beat. I'm sitting there at Adam Panda, and this is my first best ball draft of the 2024 NFL season. Ooh. I have not dipped my toes in. I usually wait till after the NFL draft, but man, with the rookies this year, you got to start trying to get some of that value early before the draft even happens.
I think that's great. There's great value in that because this is your first look. You don't have the preconceived notions that a lot of us have, and that's going to be nice, man. That's going to be nice. I can't wait to get your opinion on some of these. I just want to give a quick shout out to the chat, dude. Jack, Crockett Martin in there. That's our boy Gringo Loco. Ani Coop, of course. Victor, what's up, dude? Good to see you. And then Dustin in the house. The whole gang's here, buddy. The whole gang's here to see you, Simon. So first, I'm on the clock now. No surprises early for those listening at home. Christian McCaffrey, Breece Hall, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, and now I'm going to be boring, and I'm going to take Jamar Chase. Any surprises there, or it feels pretty chalky? No.
Feels pretty chalky, but I mean, I guess there's now a little bit of a differentiator between Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, and Justin Jefferson. Now that we have some ambiguity around Sam Darnold potentially throwing him the football, so easy choice for you there.
Yeah, you know what would be really cool is if I would share this draft and then we could see what's going on. What do you think about something like that, Simon?
What if we just visually describe the board after every single turn, including color schemes and length of names and how it makes the board look at like visually?
I think we should. So the last pick was orange for those. So, but I will do my best because we got podcast listeners. I will do my best to keep you up to date. If you've been paying attention or you watch any of these other ones, no big changes here so far. I do want to ask you though, Simon, the sixth pick here, Justin Jefferson. Are you still picking him? Because last year he was like number one with a bullet. Either him or Christian McCaffrey, Jamar. Some people are going a little Jamar Chase, but he was pretty much locked in number one. Now going sixth. Sometimes I see him go even later. Where are you looking at Jefferson with the QB questions this year?
I think right there. He doesn't scare me too much, no matter who's throwing him the ball, because he's Justin freaking Jefferson, right? Certain wide receivers, you just say they can do it no matter who's chunking them the ball. DeAndre Hopkins, we watched do it with Tom Savage and Brock Osweiler, and Justin Jefferson is just as good, if not better, than DeAndre Hopkins at his peak. These are elite wide receivers. So I'm not too scared. I wouldn't be mad if someone drafted an Amon-Ra St. Brown or an AJ Brown ahead of Justin Jefferson, but I've got him right there in that tier probably with those guys. And I'm on the clock.
Ooh, Simone. Yeah, I think we got to go right there. So yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. The thing with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Again, I've been a detractor. He's a very safe pick, and I do like him in this one. Where there's two kinds of drafts really on Underdog. There's contained drafts and there's tournaments. And by contained, I just mean a typical 12-team league where the winner is the winner. There's no playoffs, no nothing. In tournaments, I'm a little hesitant sometimes to take a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown simply because this is half PPR. And, they do have a lot of weapons now. And there's a possibility they could draft another wide receiver. He's very safe. But upside-wise, I just can't help but feel like some of these guys that are putting together these crazy seasons. I mean, again, he had a crazy season last year. What do you feel? Amon-Ra St. Brown, you still think that he should be going high-end first-round pick?
Let me snag this pick real quick in here, and then I will answer that for you. I'm going to grab a wide receiver that I think is free from Arthur Smith and ready for a big year, Drake London. Was hoping Marvin Harrison would slip back down there just for a fun start to the draft.
Yeah.
But it's all good. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I was a doubter, not a hater, but a doubter, right? Like let's calm down. We saw him do it without anybody else out on the field. His ability to perform with Sam Laporta, with Jahmyr Gibbs being involved in that offense, and us seeing Jared Goff not just be a game manager, but kind of take control in that offense. Like if I'm buying into the Detroit Lions offense again next year, then I feel like I'm buying into Amon-Ra St. Brown as one of those top options at wide receiver. He's with Justin Jefferson and AJ Brown in my mind.
Yeah, I think for me, the way I look at it is if they don't, because they let Josh Reynolds leave, if they don't do anything in the draft, then I'm picking him right there. Just right now, there are some teams where I know they're not going to draft anybody. And then there's some teams where I'm a little nervous they might. But yeah, I mean, he's about as good as it gets.
So Jack saying that he had a feeling I was looking at MV8, so he could see it in my eyes. I must have been making the face like, "Ooh, should I do it?"
There it is, dude. You were about to do it. You could sense the rookie fever, dude. You could feel it. I could feel it too. I was going to say something, but Jack was ahead of it. So quick recap before I pick. Second half of the first round: Bijan, ARSB, Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Puka Nacua. Nothing strange there for those just plugging in. Puka Nacua does go there. In fact, he goes earlier than there at certain points. So not a crazy pick. Same with Marvin Harrison Jr. at the start of this round. Then you got Drake London, Brandon Ayuk, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams sliding a little bit to a point where even I would consider drafting him there. And then now I am on the clock, and I'm going to take a best ball specialty here with Devon A-Chain.
Yeah, Devon A-Chain. Get those 70-point games just tucked in there nice and easy.
Exactly, dude. I got to see if the Broncos are on the schedule again, but guys like that can break off big explosive runs. I don't care if they're the bell cow because I don't have to set a lineup, right? So that's kind of one of the beautiful things about best ball in this case. What's your take on Kyron Williams here, Simon? I mean, people were low on him coming out of the draft because he was he didn't really perform well in the combine, but I mean, last year he went crazy. Right now they only have 3 running backs on the depth chart, but I mean, is there any reason Kyron wouldn't be Kyron again?
I'm scared to draft him this early in best ball for exactly the reason you said. They only have 3 running backs on the
Yeah.
depth chart, and there is absolutely no chance in hell that they enter the season like that. Now, could they go and add kind of like what the Browns did, like a Naeem Hines and the Deonta Foreman, where I'm like not as scared about the names that are coming up behind? Sure. But there's a lot of opportunity for them to replace or really supplement his workload. And we saw them try to do it multiple times during the season last year, and it just didn't work, right? Like, well, I guess we'll go back to Kyron. He's injured. Kyron's back in again. Like on multiple occasions, they tried to replace him already. So
Right.
I think he showed enough at the end of the year that they like him and they're comfortable with him as a starter, but there is no thunder behind me saying he's definitely the starting back for even half the games next season for that Rams team.
It scares me a little bit. I'm with you on that. And the thing is, the one part of his game where he struggled a little bit was pass blocking, right? And we've seen it time and time again with Philip Lindsay and Damian Pierce. If you can't figure out that part of the game, then they're going to bring somebody in to help with that. And when you lose those snaps, people will say, "Oh, I don't care about pass blocking. I want my guy running routes." Well, it's kind of you can't get those 2-minute drill snaps if you can't pass block, if you don't
Right.
know all the plays. So I do worry a little bit, but if they get through the draft with nothing, I might even consider him at the turn there. Just a quick recap for those listening at home. Kyron Williams went. I took Achane, Nico Collins, Debo Samuel, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs. Nothing weird there, though. Nico Collins and Diggs still going pretty high despite now being teammates. Next round, Chris Olave, DJ Moore, Sam Laporta, Josh Jacobs. I'm going to take a guy that I have no qualms about. He's going to be very high in the draft guide coming out. We're doing a best ball draft guide, should be out next week. But Michael Pittman, what do you think about old Michael Pittman, Simon? Any concerns there?
Slept on because he's boring. He may be the next Mike Evans for fantasy, not in that they're the same player, but in that every year he's just good. He's just a top 12, top 15 wide receiver, 1,000 yards, hits 6 to 10 touchdowns, and people just forget about him for some reason because he's not like super flashy all the time. I like Michael Pittman. I think if you can still get him as like wide receiver 2 value in Dynasty, go trade for him right now because he should be valued close to that wide receiver 1 range probably.
For sure. And I actually think Michael Pittman's a great comp because they're both big-bodied split ends, right? And I'll talk about Michael Pittman through your pick here on the clock. They're both big-bodied split ends, and teams at times will try and take them away. That's why Mike Evans will disappear sometimes, is that a team will say, okay, we're going to put Marshawn Lattimore on this guy and a safety over the top. And if they're going to beat us, they're going to beat us with somebody else. Teams will do that to Michael Pittman. They'll do that to Nico Collins, a lot of these big guys. That's why sometimes they have down weeks and sometimes they have crazy weeks. So, again, with best ball, I don't care, right? Like that's something where if they want to take Michael Pittman away, okay, I'm going to draft between 7 and 9 wide receivers here. So,
Yeah.
But you went Rashee Rice here, showing up in the news lately, and then you have another pick coming up here. So talk us through the Rashee Rice pick and this next pick, brother.
It's early in the offseason. There's a lot of time towards the year. This is a upside within a tier pick, right? I looked at the names in this tier: Cooper Kupp, Tank Dell. I'll put Devonta Smith in there because I was really hoping he would slip to me instead of Rashee Rice. And with my first couple picks, I feel comfortable taking someone in what I view as like the best offense, with the best quarterback throwing him the ball. And what we saw from Rashee Rice at the end of last year is promising. Now I probably need a little bit more safety mixed in with that pick. So I'll take someone like, and I got auto drafted like a Josh Allen. That's my bad. I talked too long.
That's all right, brother. That's all right. Josh Allen's not a bad pick there. He scored the 2 guys off the board. The 2 first quarterbacks go Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts back to back. Both scored 15 rushing touchdowns last year. So maybe they don't score 15 again, but you don't go from 15 to like 3, right? So not going to be a bad pick at the end of the day right there. So to give everybody back up to speed here, I took Pittman, goes Jalen Waddle, Malik Neighbors, Derrick Henry, DK Metcalf, Devonta Smith, Rashee Rice, Kismet, the 2-time winner last year. I mean, I won 3, not a big deal, but he won 2. Nobody else won more than 2. Tank Dell and Cooper Kupp, bing bang, from one of our experts here. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, T. Higgins, Travis Kelce, George Pickens. I got to ask you here, Marvin Harrison Jr. going at pick 13 overall, Malik Neighbors at 31. If now that it's been done, it's very easy in hindsight, isn't it? But in hindsight, would you rather have Harrison at 13 or Neighbors at 31?
Neighbors at 31, only because they're both unknowns, right? There's a question mark, no matter how guaranteed we are with Marvin Harrison. And not only are they unknowns, their landing spots are still unknowns, right? Like Marvin Harrison Jr., there's a difference in his value if he lands on the Cardinals and if he lands on the Chargers. We're looking at these players a little bit differently. So yeah. I'll take the value at 31, even though I like Marvin Harrison Jr. a little bit more.
Exactly. If we're talking about pick, like if one's going pick 15, the other pick 17, then give me Marvin Harrison Jr. because I rank him ahead. But if I can get value, and again, we've seen it before where like Zay Flowers goes to a team with a bunch of targets available. Jackson Smith-Njigba goes to a team where he's behind DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. We don't know which of those players is better in a vacuum. You don't play football in a vacuum, though. So at this stage, I'm fully on board with that. I think it's a great take. I think it's the correct answer. So I took Travis Etienne off the board right before me was Keenan Allen. Yeah, I mean, feeling good about it, man. And you love that pick because it's a great pick and because he went to Clemson.
Go Tigers. I think I'm going to like that pick a little bit less this year than I did last year, depending on where he ends up going. This is a little later than I expected to see him, but if he sneaks up anymore, if people start getting excited about what they saw, I'm probably going to be out on him at cost.
Okay, so we talked about Kyron Williams, right? And I alluded to another back that I was a little concerned about. They both kind of just went off the board. I took one in Travis Etienne. The other is James Cook, right? And the reason being is that there are 3 teams right now that only have 3 running backs on the roster. That would be the Los Angeles Rams, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Buffalo Bills. So they got to do something, whether it's signing veterans or drafting somebody. You just, in the modern NFL, you cannot go in the season with 3 running backs, right, Simon?
No, and you can't get rid of your best 2 wide receivers and only have 3 running backs. Know what I mean? Like, what's this team's plan? Just Josh Allen? And that's it. Like literally Josh Allen and James Cook every other play. Like I'm not entirely sure what their strategy is. I'm with you. Why?
What if you get rid of your 4 best pass catchers like the Chargers did?
And your running back and your starting running back.
I included Austin Eckler in there because he gets like 100 targets. Exactly. So when I say the 4 best pass catchers, he's ahead of Gerald Everett, honestly. But
they added a Harbaugh, so I think it cancels out. The Bills didn't add a Harbaugh of any sort.
Yeah, dude, Harbaugh and Roman is like Doug duo, right? We're talking ground pound city here. Or is there a better Pokemon example than Doug duo for the ground and pound of those 2 guys?
No, you nailed it.
All right, perfect. I just wanted to check with an expert here. So the next picks off the board, just to get the listeners at home caught up, I took Etienne, CJ Stroud, Lamar Jackson, James Cook, Rashad White, Trey McBride, Patrick Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco, Joe Mixon, Mark Andrews, Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara, Dalton Kincaid. Let me ask you about this Patrick Mahomes pick here at QB5. And this guy, if you sort all players of all time in fantasy football by points per game, he is number 1. And now going off the board at QB5. Is that why do you think that is? Is that mobile based, upside based?
I think it's what we saw from the Kansas City Chiefs offense this past season based and past 2 years based since they've gotten rid of Tyreek Hill. And I know we talked about this on the morning show. A lot of defenses have adjusted to this Chiefs offense. They're playing 2 back. They're a lot more willing to dink and dunk it with the greatest quarterback of all time, Patrick Mahomes, than they were a couple years ago. And now does that lead to I'm on the clock, a top 5 season instead of a number 1 season? Maybe. He doesn't have the same rushing upside that some of those other guys do as well, but like draft him anywhere from 1 to 5. You can't really be mad about it. Like who's going to say, oh, you shouldn't have drafted him there?
Make your pick.
But I'm doing it.
Make your pick. Apologize to Tom Brady, and then we'll get back to talking about what we're talking about here. But there is an argument that Mahomes is the best quarterback all time. I mean, it's absolutely in the discussion now, and he's on pace. But I'm still a Tom guy. I will say this with Mahomes is that it kind of is like it's comparable to JJ McCarthy, where it's like we can complain about the stats, but they won. You know what I mean? So like, what is there to complain about? It's kind of difficult to complain. That's what I run into with JJ McCarthy. It's like, what did you want them to go more undefeated than they did? Right. So it's what makes this game so tough. That's what makes this game so tough.
It's not in a vacuum. We keep coming back to this vacuum thing.
I know it's the vacuum. It's what makes tight ends so tough. And I want to talk to you about tight end. I'll get us recapped here. I took Mark Andrews because that's a crazy value for a guy that could. I mean, he's been the tight end one before. Could be the tight end one again. Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara, Dalton Kincaid, my sweet prince, Amari Cooper, Roma Dunze, Jaden Reed, Anthony Richardson, Kismet with another great pick, and Kyle Pitts as well. Kismet's amazing at this. Evan Ingram, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Terry McLaurin. I saw you got our guy Evan Ingram there, a pick that I love. But tight end is a tough position because there are a number of guys that we say, this guy is great at football. I'm not going to pick him in fantasy football. So when you look at this draft so far at tight end, the values, where everybody's gone, it's been Sam Laporta in the 3rd, Travis Kelce in the 4th, and then the 5th, McBride, Andrews, Kincaid, 6th, Pitts, Ingram, Kittle. What values do you like? Which ones you don't like at the tight end position there?
Well, not to toot my own horn, but I do like the Evan Ingram value down here. And I really wish I could have gotten the Kyle Pitts value one pick before. Like I love this little pocket of tight ends with Calvin Ridley out of the picture and Ingram's end of the season last year. Like I'm feeling good about that. Kyle Pitts free from Arthur Smith. I like that value as well. And then I love your Mark Andrews pick. I don't understand why he's necessarily going that late in the draft when he has comparable upside to a Sam Laporta. The only difference I see is it's a lower passing volume offense, but Mark Andrews is higher up on the pecking chart than Sam Laporta is on his. So they're comparable to me and where they should be going in the draft. So I'll take Mark Andrews 2 rounds after Sam Laporta 10 times out of 10.
And that's what sucks. It's why sometimes Twitter bothers me, is because you can't convey your full thoughts as well as you'd like to. Where I'm a big Sam Laporta fan, one of the biggest, right? Like I'm sitting next to a stack of Sam Laporta rookie cards as we speak, but we have to, every year is different, right? Every team is different every year. So we have to adjust. We're talking about a guy that had 52 yards a game last year. It's not like he came out and did something like insanely unprecedented. In his rookie year, Kyle Pitts had 187 more yards than Sam Laporta did. So I love Sam Laporta. I love that I have him in a lot of dynasty leagues. I'm not taking him in the 3rd round at the tight end 1, 9 picks before Travis Kelce. I'm just not doing it.
No, I can't do it either. Where are you on Travis Kelce going into this year? Because it felt like this was the first time we kind of saw like a big slip in his year-end finish, but it was to tight end 3 overall, like not even bad. Is this the beginning of his decline, or can you still draft him as the first tight end off the board with some confidence?
I have my concern here. So I think that I'm not going to take him as the tight end 1 off the board because you don't have to. I'm taking him if he slides. So I have no problem taking him in the 4th round here where he was taken by Troy. I think it's a great pick. And I'm just not going to pay the premium for him that you used to. And I'm wondering if maybe the Chiefs are on like another planet, right? So when you're on another planet, you can do things that other teams might not even consider or think about. Think about LeBron James in the NBA and how he is so plugged into what he does, and he sleeps in the hyperbaric chamber, that he knows how to like take parts of games off, take even half of plays off. Like if he knows that there's a breakaway, he's not sprinting, he's not, you know what I mean? Where I think that to some degree the Chiefs are doing that, where if they think they can take the gas off the pedal, they will. And we've seen the Bills do that with Josh Allen when they had the division locked up a couple of years ago. Remember when Devin Singletary scored like 7 rushing touchdowns? It's because they could take the foot off the gas. And I look at this division, and all the teams are kind of going in the wrong direction right now. The Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders, to some degree, all kind of got a little bit worse. And I think it could be another situation where they can coast a little bit. So I don't know. It's maybe I'm getting a little too alpha brain on this one, but I don't know. I don't know if we need Travis Kelce to go out and touch the ball 12 times every game now, right? At this stage.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, especially as he's getting older, right? He's an asset as well for the Chiefs. You think of it as every snap he plays has value and diminishes his future value for the Chiefs as well. It would be in their best interest to use those absolutely efficiently. And maybe they're in a division where efficiently isn't Travis Kelce needs to play 100% of the snaps.
Exactly. And the thing is, I'll say this is an example I use with the Colts, right? Peyton Manning one year went 12-4. His record was 12-4, and he threw 49 touchdown passes, which is a lot for those keeping track at home. The following year, they They beefed up the O-line and the defense got better, and they went 14-2. So the team was better, but he threw like 28 touchdown passes because he didn't need to. And the same exact thing happened with the Chiefs, where they were 12-4 the year Patrick Mahomes threw 50 touchdown passes. In the following year, when the team was better, he didn't throw as many. So the Chiefs getting better on defense, getting better in the run game it's just not as good for the upside of some of these plays. Simple as that. To give everybody a quick recap on where we're at, I'm not going to be able to go through all the picks that we just did. So I'm going to look at right now quarterbacks, right? They fell pretty far. This is what you're going to see from Sharp Gamers. The first quarterbacks went in the 4th round. Our Simon expertly and meticulously decided to draft Josh Allen.
Yeah.
He did not auto draft that pick. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud, Lamar Jackson in the 4th round. Patrick Mahomes, Anthony Richardson in the 5th. Kyler Murray in the 6th. That's my boy. Hurts my feelings that I'd get him. Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott in the next round. Number of teams that don't have quarterbacks yet, including myself. I'm on the clock now. But which of those picks do you like the best at value so far, son?
Well, I really think my 3-4 turn was great. Drafting a potentially suspended player followed up by an auto draft pick of a quarterback. So I think besides that,
just really sharp.
The pick that made me the most like I got to breathe a sigh of relief was that CJ Stroud went the same round I picked Josh Allen, because I would have had such bad FOMO watching CJ Stroud go even a round later or 2 rounds later than Josh Allen. The pick that I think I like the most, we already talked about, was Patrick Mahomes. I think there's value grabbing him as the 5th quarterback off the board. And then Anthony Richardson, I'm surprised to see him going this high, but I do not hate it based on what we saw in the small sample size last year.
Yeah, the thing with mobile QBs is that, like, we always talk about the upside, which is of course tremendous, but the floor is great as well. If you do the math in a format like this, it's, if you throw for 250 yards, that's 10 points. And, the top 5 QBs, like in passing yards per game, like Jared Goff, he averages 267. Matthew Stafford averages 266. So that's about the average, right? That's 10 points. Anthony Richardson can get to 10 points with 150 passing yards and 40 rushing yards because of how much more valuable the rushing yards are. And then he scored a rushing touchdown in all 4 games, right? So when you take the injury risk or whatever off the table, which I do. I mean, I'm not,
especially in best ball, like
especially in best ball,
you should be building around that.
Yeah. And the famous phrase, I'm not trying to play Dr. Fortune Teller here on who gets hurt and who doesn't. So I'm fully in on that pick. And I'll say this, Simon, I'm with you on that. Nothing feels better than when you draft a position and then a run starts at the position right after that. Right? Like,
then you can be like, okay, even though I didn't like it, everyone else followed that lead down that path.
Yeah, as the tight end whisperer, sometimes I'll pick a tight end, especially a tight end premium, and everybody starts picking them. I'm like, that's my favorite, dude. The tight end avalanche, and you just know, like. Whoosh.
And I love the second one. I always love the second to tight end run. Know what I mean? Because oftentimes, especially doing a morning show with you 3 days a week, Coop, I started feeling pretty confident in my late round tight ends a little bit. I'd be drafting my first tight end, and then I'd kick off a little tight end run in the back half of drafts where everyone's grabbing their second guy on the back of their bench.
It happens though, right? Because everyone says to themselves, I'll just wait and take this guy. And then as soon as one of those this guys goes, then everybody's like, oh, I got to get my guy now.
Oh,
so it does
what if they take my Dulcich?
Yeah, which was a great pick last year.
Oh, yeah, so good. I can probably wait a couple more rounds on him this year.
For sure. Yeah, so and honestly, I've got a few this year more than any so far early on. I'm actually on board with taking tight end early because I'm not taking Laporta and Kelsey as much at their ADP, but I have no problem with McBride, Andrews, Pitts, Ingram. Like, I love those guys. So for the first time ever, I am taking at least one tight end early. And then of course I always have some late tight ends in my bag here. And I'll tell you what, Simon and listeners of the world, guess what we're doing this year? A best ball draft guide. It's going to be available to all. Yeah. All the Fantasy Alarm members get that best ball draft guide automatically. So everybody in this draft already, they're all members, right? So they get that guide for free. You can also buy it. We haven't set a price point for it. It's going to come out next week. But what I did is I took, it's not only my rankings and my tiered rankings, but also targets that I like at every position, top 10 sleepers, top 10 busts, top 10 rookies. And throughout there, there's obviously all sorts of strategy, right? Like different ways that I look at things, stacking, we look at roster composition, all that, dude. All my thoughts, you can have that. So and the tight end sleepers are in there, and there's bonus ones because it's tight end. So there you go, folks. Get set up with that. Simon's on the clock now. You're coming up with the clock next. You just took Trey Benson. I'm going to do a quick rookie recap while you make your pick. And then I want to get your thoughts on the rookies and what your philosophy is in these best ball drafts before the draft. So Malik Neighbors went in the second. Sorry, Marvin Harrison Jr. went in the second round, pick 13. Malik Neighbors was next at pick 31. And then Rome Odunze was the next rookie off the board, and he went in the 5th round. Those guys virtually always the first 3 rookies off the board. Honestly, I've yet to see a draft where they don't go first 3. I've seen Neighbors go before Marvin Harrison, but I've yet to see somebody go ahead of those 3. After those guys, you have Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver, going in the 7th round. You have Brock Bowers, tight end, in the 8th round. In the 9th round, I took Donnie Mitchell went, and then I took the speedster Xavier Worthy, and then you took Trey Benson, and then that is it for rookies so far. So after the big 3, Marv, Odunze, and Neighbors, who are you most likely to take in those wide receivers? And why is it Xavier Worthy, and why was my pick the best?
I was going to say I like Xavier Worthy, but I'm not sure that the answer is just him, because it comes down to value after those top 3 guys. Those top 3 guys I'm drafting a little bit more like players that I have some priors about. Know what I mean? Like a Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm analyzing a little bit closer to how I analyze a Stephon Diggs on draft day than I am for a Xavier Worthy. A Xavier Worthy is a lot more unknown in my mind, and maybe I'm falsely attributing some confidence, but I'm following the confidence of the NFL analysis community when talking about these guys, right? So it's going to be a little bit more of a discount-based draft system for these later round guys. I like the value on Trey Benson right there. And when I looked at the names around him, like Brian Robinson, I was getting a little bored, getting a little yawn fest.
Right.
So once I start yawning at the names next to the rookies is probably the unofficial time whenever it's time to grab those guys.
That is honestly the way to do it, though. The yawn test, I love the yawn test, because that is really how you should do it. Sometimes that's how I decide how I take a quarterback sometimes too. I make a big list of the guys, the running backs and wide receivers that I believe could be like the number 1 flex player in the league. And then once those guys are gone, I say, oh, you know what? I'll just take my top QB or tight end here, right? So I do that early in the draft, and I do it later with the rookies too. So I kind of like that. And yeah, Xavier Worthy is definitely a boom bust player. And as you said, like he could go in the 1st round, or he could go in like the 5th round, because he could end up just being like a field stretcher. Like, and teams have gotten burned before taking the fast guy, thinking it's going to be great, and it just ends up being a guy that takes the top off safeties. Anthony Schwartz with your Browns, for instance, really good pick. Tutu Atwell, another one, right? We didn't know what Henry Ruggs was going to become, but I mean, they definitely didn't pan out. So another one, John Ross in the 1st round by the Bengals.
I think he's still sitting on a couple of my dynasty rosters somewhere.
John Ross, dude, the most incredible stat on John Ross is that he finished his rookie year with negative fantasy points. He had no catches, and he had a 12-yard carry, but on that carry, he fumbled. And Jadeveon Clowney picked it up and ran it like 50 yards the other way. So in reality, the one time he the one time he touched the football, it ended up being a 40-something yard swing the other direction, right?
Hot.
And also in leagues with -2 for fumbles, he had negative points. So
that's like the semester in college that I withdrew from all my classes except for one, so I could focus on it, and then I flunked that class.
Amazing.
Me and John Ross, baby.
You and John Ross, 1 carry, fumble.
1 class, failure.
One class, 1 fumble. So yeah, there you go. Shout out Ann in the chat, Britt Flynn, Anthony, and of course, Joey Wright, dude.
Well. Joey, I'm sorry, it's not what it looks like.
Yes, dude, the arch nemesis Joey. I tried to get Joey on the show here, but he had some dental issues going on there. As soon as that's cleared up, we'd like to get you back on, buddy. So let us know what your schedule is, Joey. We'll get you up and running. We had Alfredo Brown fill in for him. I just took Caleb Williams, a pick that I hate and a pick that I didn't want to do because I was talking. How do you feel about that pick, Simon?
I hate it. Whenever
I hate it, dude.
Like, why would you take him instead of Jared Goff or
Terrible
Justin
pick.
Herbert? Like,
Sigma
Jared
Chai
Goff sitting right there makes that pick so bad.
So bad. Sigma Chai immediately punished me for my decision. Also, Deshaun Watson is a guy that I like even better. There's like 10 guys I can name that I probably should have picked instead.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah, and the thing is, people say, here's the thing: I'm not knocking Caleb Williams.
No, he's a rookie quarterback going to the Bears.
Well, you say it like that, it sounds pretty bad.
Sorry, Bears.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is people say that when people say, "Oh, Caleb Williams could be Mahomes," or he's Mahomes-esque, I actually don't disagree with that because when I watch it, he does a lot of things that Mahomes does. Like Mahomes and Michael Vick, they have an ability to effortlessly on the move just flick the ball and send it, right? And I think Caleb Williams has a part of that to his game. The thing is, Patrick Mahomes didn't throw 50 touchdown passes as a rookie. He was in the NFL for a full year learning behind Alex Smith and Andy Reid with the Chiefs. And then he started and threw a bunch of touchdown passes. Same with Jordan Love. Like Jordan Love is new to us. It's like when you buy something off eBay. Like it's brand new to me. But Jordan Love has been in the league for like 4 years, right? So the odds of a guy coming out and having a rookie CJ Stroud or a rookie Deshaun Watson type season are not that good. Coming from the person who just selected Caleb.
And I'll take a quarterback here after he made it past the turn. I'll grab Trevor Lawrence.
Great pick. Another great pick that I would have been better picked than the pick I made.
Little tight end QB stack right there.
There you go, dude. Loading up on Clemson. Loading up on Jaguars.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Go Tigers, man. They were fun to watch in the tournament this year. And that's I was rooting for them, even though it was directly against my my brackets and my auction bracket. I was still like texting you in jail. I was like, I lose a lot of money here if they win, but go Tigers.
But go Tigers.
I just can't help it, dude.
My fiance was getting so annoyed with me because throughout their entire run, every night I'd look out at the sky and go, man. And she'd go, what? And I'd go, that's how you know God's a Tigers fan. And then just walk back inside as the sun's set in orange and purple.
You looking up at it, dude? You're like, I wonder if the Tigers were watching the same moon as I am tonight.
Oh, sorry, not copyrighted.
Yeah. Whoops. Careful now. We don't want Chumbawamba coming after us again. So I mean, I will say, winning money is great, but being one of the boys is priceless, and that's why I was rooting for Clemson.
You're right, and you can get me to root against my own best interest with a good come on, and we're in this together pretty easily.
Well, exactly. So let's do a quick running back update. We got through the major names. The running back dead zone is where I'll start this, and that's kind of around the 7th round here, where we saw Najee Harris, Austin Eckler, James Conner, David Montgomery, Mondre Stevenson, Tony Pollard. Right, that group of guys to me, they're kind of fallen by the wayside. I know you took Tony Pollard, but among those other guys, who do you like best out of Najee, Eckler, Connor, Montgomery, and Stevenson? Because there's kind of a decision to be made by a lot of teams. Like if you're going 0 RB, you kind of need to pluck somebody out here that you can trust, right?
Yeah, got kind of gross for Eckler there at the end of the season, and I kept holding on, thinking maybe something's up, but it looks like the touches could be eventually catching up to him. Najee Harris is the name that jumps out to me here. And the reason that's the case is, yet again, even with Jaylen Warren coming in, taking work, even with the abysmal offensive line, even with him averaging 0.01 yards per carry and yards after contact, he's still getting the touches. And he's the name here that I'm most confident is going to get the volume that could lead to an RB1 type season, to a top 12 running back season. It's a little bit scary outside of that, right? Tony Pollard, I like that Derrick Henry's gone, but they just drafted a guy that they really like. Right. And that Tony Pollard compares fairly, they're not complementary backs like Henry and Spears were. Pollard and Spears feel a little bit more like similar players back there in the backfield. So it's Harris for me and then Pollard, but there's a bit of a break between Harris and Pollard.
Yeah, and then just to put you on edge, the very next round after you took Pollard, Chicago Ponch Rio 23 takes Tajay Spears.
Yep.
Just to stick it to the guest, which always encouraged if you're doing these drafts with us. Sniping the hosts is Trey-Bone.
Yeah, shout out Jack for just sniping me repeatedly on the turn there over and over again.
Yeah, there's Sigma in the chat. Victory lapping his Jared Goff pick after I took Caleb Williams. Yes, that was a good pick. If we could trade, I'd be offering a trade. Icy Through, who is this draft is filled with superstars when it comes to the Fantasy Alarm crew and the Family Badge crew. Icy Through, definitely one of those guys. Easily, there's like a race to see who can get in first, and he's almost always one of the first few in. He's going Aaron Rodgers here as his QB2 after CJ Stroud. Is that something that you would do, you would consider? I mean, you and I covering the rumors and news during the offseason and the beginning of the season, Aaron Rodgers, just a wealth of storylines. So we've talked in depth about this guy. Is that a move you're making this year in the 12th round?
Yeah, in the 12th round, why not draft Aaron Rodgers? You can draft him or Kirk Cousins on a brand new team. Those seem similar to me, right? They've got similar upsides. And the Jets are continuing, even after a whole year without Aaron Rodgers, to add weapons for him. They go out and they add Mike Williams as well into this offense. I'll take Rodgers in the 12th round. Are you saying there's not a chance that he finishes looking like MVP Aaron Rodgers from a couple years ago? It's not what I'm calling for. It's not what I'm expecting, but I'm not sure the upside that some of these other guys have in this round that Aaron Rodgers has.
He's just like, he's not a normal dude. Like,
no.
He is so, and here's the thing, there's nothing more powerful than spite, right? And I think that Aaron Rodgers, more than anyone else, can channel that spite power into a great season. Like, I truly believe that, like, he's gonna go full Warren Buffett here and just, buy the company and fire everybody. And
a man who feels he's been wronged and can't quite identify by who is a really dangerous man on the football field. Aaron Rodgers he doesn't know who he's proven wrong, but he's ready, baby.
Yeah, dude. He's that anime character with his back against the wall and just gonna go Super Saiyan here. So I mean, I could see it. He's the exact kind of dude that I could see either be the MVP of the league or quit by week 6. Like, straight up quit. Just, quit the league.
Just out of the league. So Zach Wilson, you're up.
Just straight up quit. So, I mean, I don't know. So it's an interesting pick. And I will say there's quarterbacks that are still available that I'm looking at, and I'm like, yep, this would have been just as good of a pick as Caleb Williams. And I would much rather have waited and take. I mean, like, we don't know who's going to score more fantasy points, Drake May or Caleb Williams. So, I don't know, And Icy Through pointing out in the chat correctly here that, yes, he paired him with Mike Williams. So nice little pairing there.
I also it's my responsibility this offseason.
You're on the clock, by the way. Just want to
thank you. Yeah, let me make my pick first, and then I'm going to live out my responsibility.
Yeah. But before you get to that, so make your pick. I do love the pick by Obi-Wan Outlaw, Marshawn Lloyd. We had Derek Brown on the show from Fantasy Pros. He is fully in on Marshawn Lloyd, and he actually convinced Pat Fitzmaurice to also be in on Marshawn Lloyd. So he's been making compelling arguments. So I am now in on Marshawn Lloyd. I'm also in on Javon Baker, who hasn't been picked yet. Spoilers, but Marshawn Lloyd, an interesting rookie here. But you took Michael Mayer here. Michael Mayer, walk us through that one.
If we're being honest, that was a fear pick as I looked at the rest of the tight ends available and realized I only had Evan Ingram on my team. Right. Of the options remaining, Michael Mayer was the one I was most excited about. Less question marks than some of the others. Sure, there's some more upside with a guy like Jonnu Smith maybe joining the Dolphins, but I'm not sure I'm going to be the one to take that.
I don't think that there's a much of a different. I mean, to put it this way. Both tight ends are the third fiddle on their team, right? Yeah. And Michael Mayer, I would argue, because we've seen so much Jonnu Smith already, he has that shiny, mystery box upside to him that Jonnu doesn't quite have. So honestly, I'm with you on that. That I think I would go Mayer over Jonnu simply because we don't know what he'll be just yet, and
he could jump. He could take a jump.
They're both one injury away, and not to mention, there's no chance that the Dolphins trade away one of their top 2 wide receivers. But those Devontae Adams traders, when there's smoke, there's fire, right? Which is what I said about Stephon Diggs when somebody, the Bills fans in my comments on Reddit were like, this is a big nothing burger and you're stupid and the media is just looking for narratives and I hate you and you're dumb. But it turned out that when there was smoke, there was fire. So that Bills fan was wrong, right? So anytime I hear,
Bills fan.
So you're gonna have to just eat it, right? But anytime I hear rumors about like Devontae Adams trades or T. Higgins trades, in the back of my mind, I factor that in because there's so many players out there that there are not rumors about. Anytime there are rumors, that creates that there's usually something to it, and it doesn't always come to fruition. But when these guys do get traded, there's almost always something before, is there not?
And it can happen fast. Look at Stephon Diggs, right? Exactly. There's another example that we're talking about. Real quick, Mike Williams PSA. He's not as injured as you think he is. Go look at his fantasy game logs before you start throwing around injury prone and discounting him because of it. If he stays in the wide receiver like 40 to 50 range because he's injury prone and on a new team, draft him. He's played in 13 plus games the vast majority of his seasons and hit 15 in the last couple. He's pretty healthy. He just plays hard, man, like George Kittle.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, in best ball, it's the perfect format for him. He's the guy that goes out and makes big chunk plays and scores big contested catch touchdowns. Like
climbs 14 feet in the air without a ladder to catch it, then lands on his head.
Lands on his neck, dude. Misses a couple games. But honestly, though, in best ball, I don't care. Like, get the ball. Like I'm like, as long as he catches the ball, then that's what matters in this particular format. So I'm fully with that. And I will say, Mike Williams, just going back to our show that we had, my Mike Williams take, one of the worst takes of all time that came to fruition when I was like, well, he had a 1,000-yard season one year, and then the next year he had 10 touchdowns. So what if he has 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns? Like one of the worst takes ever. That 100% worked. So shout out to the hot takes on the fantasy line. That was the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show.
Trust the process, even when the process is bad.
Yeah. Hey, take a quick second here to tell everybody what you guys got going on at Front Yard Fantasy for the people in the chat here. I know a lot of these guys, pop into your show and they hang out at your show. Ani Coop and a few of the gang. Dustin's obviously in there. But for the people that have never seen your show, which is my very favorite all time, just let them know what you guys are doing over there on Thursdays.
Absolutely. Thursdays at 3 p.m. we are live for the Fantasy Football Game Show. It's myself, John Luke Garofalo, and Joey Wright hosting with a guest every single week, playing games about fantasy football, about the game we love. Takes on game show games like Fantasy Football Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, Fantasy Feud, and then also some other games based on like Quiplash games or original games we made up ourselves. It's a lot of fun. It tests your knowledge of the fantasy football landscape. It's a good way to stay up to date on the news. And we're just acting a fool in there playing games. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., we've got Heath Cummings from CBS joining us. So if you want to come play some Fantasy Football Jeopardy with me, Joey, Jail, and Heath, stop by tomorrow. Might be a little NFL draft theming as we're approaching that day.
Of course, dude. Heath is awesome, man. Heath is so funny. It's like he's one of those guys that can he gets it and he blends in with the stuff. So like you listen to his show and it's a lot of times very serious and all that. But then when he comes on your show, he's absolutely willing to get silly with the boys. So
100%.
Yeah, he's great. Heath is awesome, man. And the contents and takes from him, man. He's a fantasy football legend, no question. So make sure you check that out tomorrow at 3 p.m. So for us here, just want to give a quick look at some of these later picks here. Simon, you just took Quentin Johnston, which I think is
but it's a good pick.
That's right. It's like that cheese. It's like a stinky cheese, right?
Limburger is what this is right here.
Right, where it's like, you smell, but then you're like, wow, this actually has a very sharp and distinct taste to it, which that is the upside of Quentin Johnston. They got rid of all 4 of their top pass catchers. Nice things are being said about everybody else. And, when you listen to Jim Harbaugh, he talked for like 15 minutes the other day about how important offensive line is.
I know.
Yeah, and how offensive line basically the gist of what he said that for people that didn't see it is that the offensive line is the one position that operates independently of everybody else. If the offensive line is good, it's good regardless of what anyone else is doing. But for running backs, they're not good if the offensive line is bad. Wide receivers, they're not good if the offensive line is bad. He even made the argument that defensive linemen aren't as good if the offensive line is bad. And they were like, "What are you talking about, Jim?" And he was like, "If you don't give the defense time to rest, how many times have we seen them be gassed?" And every reporter pulled out their little notepad and they were like, you're right. That's actually a good point."
Huh.
So yeah, they're like, this guy seems to know what he's talking about, I guess. So Jim Harbaugh, you're on the clock as well, Simon.
Yeah.
So Jim Harbaugh, there's a real possibility that they either trade back or just take Joe Alt there. Or, they take a tight end for Greg Roman's scheme and all that. So it's not a lock that they take a wide receiver.
Jan Test.
Yep.
Jan Test got a Malachi Corley in there.
You got it. Jan Test plus great name. That's how a Malachi Corley gets picked.
Absolutely. Malachi, like that's a badass name.
So yeah, it's amazing, dude.
Also, drafting Quentin Johnson there. I drafted Josh Palmer a couple rounds earlier, and in best ball, like I'm probably done at wide receiver now, but I don't mind having both those guys in best ball while we're trying to figure out how that wide receiver room is going to break down with, like you mentioned, the top 4 receiving options gone. And with Harbaugh, my favorite thing about that quote was people saw that quote and then still were convincing themselves that the Chargers were going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. after Harbaugh spent like 18 hours just saying like offensive line's the most important thing that's ever existed in the entire world. They're like, MHJ to the Chargers.
Well, yeah, there's so much. Yeah, there's so much, so much fantasy wishing that is done this time of year. It is incredible, dude. It really is, man. The number one spot where I see fantasy wishing right now, and I tweeted this the other day, is with the Packers pass catchers. Every single person has a Packers pass catcher that they like best. Simon, give us one that you like.
Reed.
You like Jaden Reed.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I am 100% wishing him to be the clear-cut target leader and not be like 3% targets ahead of Romeo Doubs, and which is probably what's going to happen.
Dude, everyone's wishing Romeo Doubs would go away. That's like you just want him to go.
Poor
away.
Romeo.
He led the team in snaps, targets, and touchdowns, and he was the best wide receiver in the playoffs. And every fantasy gamer is like, well, it's pretty simple. You just bench Romeo Doubs.
Just get him out of there.
You just bench him because they like Wicks and they like Reed and they like Tucker Kraft, right? And it's like, and Watson has a interesting upside appeal, and Luke Musgrave is still like a mystery man. And it's like they just want Romeo Doubs to go away, but I don't think he's going away. Did I draft him this draft? I've been drafting a lot of him. I didn't take him this time, but I've been taking a lot of Romeo Doubs. But it's just we get enamored with the shiny upside.
Not a single 49ers player had more receiving yards than Romeo Doubs in the playoffs. And they played.
I know.
Not a single one of them.
Dude, he had over 200 receiving yards, and the next highest you saw from a Packers wide receiver, he had over 200. Next highest had 35 in the 2 playoff games. It was Jaden Reed. So he was everything. He caught 10 to 12 targets, dude. He was a monster. And
we had Luke Musgrave at 66 in the playoffs. Don't skip Luke Musgrave.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was looking at wide receivers, or I was going off the top of my head. But yeah, Luke Musgrave. And the thing is, people want Luke Musgrave to go away too. Like, dude, they're acting. I tweeted Luke Musgrave still better than Tucker Kraft earlier, and everyone's like, "Boo! Pitchforks out!" Like, it's just like sometimes people have these picks. Like they looked at Tucker Kraft over Luke Musgrave and said, "Oh, this is a cute little hot take, right? Like Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews. I'll do the same thing here." And then once Luke Musgrave and 5 wide receivers got hurt and Tucker Kraft did a little something, they just wanted to confirm their priors. I still think it's Musgrave over Kraft, but what do I know about tight end, Simon? Who knows?
Very little from my experience.
Very little.
It's not like you dedicate massive amounts of time on a daily basis to specifically understanding this position in football to a detriment to your relationships, life, job, and other endeavors.
Pigeonholing myself into a corner. And still, people are like, "Nope, you're wrong." But, yeah. I'm also right now, Simon, looking at this board, and there are still quarterbacks that I like just as much as Caleb Williams.
Yeah. What are you doing? I hate to name drop, but you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to break the cardinal rule because we're late in the drafts, and if you get sniped at this point, you should have taken your guy around to go. How are you feeling about Bryce Young? Are you out, or is he a post-type sleeper kind of guy for you?
I'm in right now, and I don't care if Poncho or Icy take Bryce Young because there's another quarterback. I'm going to take a quarterback here no matter what. But Bryce Young, man, I'll tell you, we gave Trevor Lawrence a pass because Urban Meyer was a complete dumpster fire, right? That situation. We gave him a pass, and the next year with a new coach and Christian Kirk and all these added pieces, he was very good, right? With Bryce Young, we're not giving him a pass, even though the coach got fired. There you go, Icy. Good job, dude. Thanks, Bryce Young. Well, I'm about to take. I love the hashtag family. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather, guys, but that's the best, dude.
Nice job, Icy.
Yeah, so Icy the man. But dude, so they fire the coach, they fire the GM Scott Fitterer, they fire everybody, right? They fire Deuce Staley, and they bring in a whole new group, right? Dave Canales, who is obviously a star, very handsome fellow, came from Tampa Bay, and then they go out and they add 2 guards, and they spend $150 million on Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis, which those two, having guards up the middle was the secret to success with Drew Brees, right? Like, so they go out, who is another undersized QB, they go out and copy that model, and then they're not even done that. They trade for Deontay Johnson, a guy that has gotten 9 targets a game over the last 4 years. Would have been an incredible stack for me to take Bryce Young there with Deontay Johnson, but AC3 took him. So yeah, so I'm in on Bryce Young. I think the upside's there. The floor, of course, is that he's just bad, but he's QB 28 off the board. Who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't really, at that point, he's your 3rd quarterback, especially in a best ball league. You don't have to, what's the risk drafting a Bryce Young compared to some of the other names here?
Yeah, I took Russell Wilson, where I look at it and I say, okay, Russell Wilson has never finished worse than the QB 16 in fantasy football in his career, ever. In 9 years or 10 years or whatever it is, or 12 years. I honestly don't know. It's a lot of years. I looked through all of them. The worst year he had was QB 16, right? Now he's going to to play with Mike Tomlin, who has never had a losing season as a coach, right? Every single season that Russell Wilson has had throwing the football all the way back to his first year is better than the best year that Kenny Pickett or Justin Fields has had, right? Why is Russell Wilson going off the board at QB 30?
Because his name's Russell Wilson and he's corny as hell.
That's it.
And I think that's truly the only reason that he's going at that point.
I'll tell you what. I mean, Gardner Minshew's changing teams. If Russell Wilson was as cool as Gardner Minshew with the helmet and the American flag, George
was as cool as Gardner Minshew.
If he was as cool as Gardner Minshew, he'd go way earlier. I promise you. But because he's like kind of a dork, you know what I mean? And then I'll take the dork discount every time.
The discount double dork?
Discount double dork, dude. Sign me up, man. Dork me up for that.
Is that what drafting Bryce Young and Russell Wilson back to back is? The discount double dork?
Oh my God, that is it, dude. That is it. Who else is a dork QB? Not really many guys.
Kirk Cousins is a dork.
Oh my God, he's like the number 1 big time dork.
Yeah,
it's just, and he does it to himself. He one time posted this picture of him cooking steaks. And he was literally like boiling them on the grill inside of tinfoil.
Yeah, that was pretty nasty. I don't even eat steak, and that looked. It
just doesn't look right. It's like, yeah, you don't eat it, but like you also you don't eat it, but you definitely don't want to see it ruined.
No, don't. That's just throwing money away.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're gonna murder something, don't murder it again. So yeah.
Opposite of a dork quarterback, Jeff Driscoll. Put him in the group with Gardner Minshew and Jay Cutler and Blake Bortles. Lamar Jackson is just cool as hell. Like you look at him and it's just like those are the guys I want to hang out with. Yeah,
it turns out that Mac Jones, apparently his coolness was being stifled in New England. Did you hear the news that he broke himself, that he's actually a rapper?
Oh, wow. I did not have that on my 2024 bingo card, Mac Jones' rap career.
They did a little interview. They were like, meet the new guys, all the new free agents and stuff that came in. Mac Jones, a rapper. So it's something that no one knew about because he had to keep it under wraps in New England. But yeah, I mean.
So it's not to make anyone on the team like jealous or anything, as he's already the starting quarterback. Or maybe Billy B just didn't want him to expose talents like that.
Maybe Billy B is also a rapper and just like didn't want another guy on his turf, kind of, Maybe they had like a battle to see who could, whether or not he could tell people he was a rapper.
And the game Zappy started were the games where Mac Jones was saying, "No, I'm releasing the mixtape, man." And he's like, "All right, sit your ass on the bench.
You're done, dude." Or maybe they have a rap battle every week, and Zappy just put the screws to him, and that's how they decide who starts.
A Zappy versus Mac Jones rap battle live before a game to determine the starter would be peak television.
Electric, dude. Electric.
If I could just be in charge, not of anything, just in general, know what I mean? Like if at any time I could just decide like this is what I want, things would be so much fun. You'd be watching NFL and that stuff would happen right away.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Like starting quarterback is decided on the field before the game.
Rap battle. Two back, back and forth. I mean, I'm in, dude. I don't think Kirk Cousins would ever start another game, but I mean, he's got the grill. I feel like you get points for that. All right, let's go through our teams here, and then we'll get you out of here. My team so far, first round, I'm going to go in order. So Jamar Chase, Devon Achane, Michael Pittman, Travis Etienne, Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown, Deontay Johnson, Jordan Love. I mean, I like all those picks. Xavier Worthy and Jonathan Brooks are just two upside rookie plays. If Jonathan Brooks goes to the Cowboys, I'll be very excited. Caleb Williams, a pick that I made that I hate. Blake Corum, I took another rookie there, taking some stabs. Marvin Mims Jr., a upside play. Hunter Henry, a guy that already was good in the red zone, but now they bring in Alex Van Pelt, who called the second most screen passes to the tight end of any team, behind only Simon's Evan Ingram. Rashad Bateman, Tyler Boyd, Russell Wilson, Javon Baker. Now I'm on the clock. Simon, why don't you run through your team real quick first?
Absolutely. I'll start at the top as well. First round started against what I usually do and drafted a running back in Jahmyr Gibbs, followed by two wide receivers in Drake London and Rashee Rice, potentially suspended. Josh Allen after that, 100% on purpose, but did start a little quarterback run. And it's fun to see how a team plays out whenever you go QB early or tight end early. Jaden Reed at wide receiver after that, my aforementioned preferred fantasy wish list wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. Evan Ingram, the tight end 2 from last season, going into a pretty good situation in Jacksonville. A little running back run for me with Tony Pollard, Raheem Mostert, and Trey Benson in these middle rounds, right in the running back dead zone. Some more wide receivers in Jacoby Myers and Josh Palmer. I grabbed my second quarterback in Trevor Lawrence down in the 12th round. Michael Mayer at tight end. And then we grabbed Quentin Johnston and Malachi Corley at wide receiver and wrapped up with Keaton Mitchell, Will Shipley at running back. I had to get some more of those yawn-induced exciting rookie picks at the end.
You're on the clock right now to wrap it up. So as we wrap this one up, just want to remind folks, if you want to get in, do these drafts with us. We do live drafts and slow drafts. We're going to be really ramping them up come May and June and July. First, get set up with Underdog. Use promo code ALARM. They'll give you, they'll match 100% of your deposit up to $100. Then go get set up over at Fantasy Alarm, fantasyalarm.com/win. You can get 40% off the annual subscription, which is going to take you obviously through this year. And it's not just football. It'll get you set up for the Masters this week, for baseball, basketball, hockey, MMA, you name it. So get it set up there. And then we do the drafts in the Discord. Also, now is the perfect time to get set up because we've got the best ball guide coming out next week. And if you just get the All Pro membership, you just get that. If you don't do that, then you could buy it as a standalone product, but you might as well, you're going to get it anyway. So you might as well just get the membership and then get it as part of that. That's the whole deal here. So go get set up with all that and play with us. And then you can hang out in the chat like Mile High Luke and Icy, and Victor and Jack and everybody and snipe our picks and talk trash like we do in the Discord and everything and on here, and get yourself some shiny badges. So that's going to be it for us, man. Simon, why don't you tell everybody once again where they can catch you and all your stuff, starting with tomorrow, Thursday, Heath Cummings is a guest on the show.
Well, first of all, good luck catching me because I am very fast. I'm so freaking fast.
He is quick.
Best of luck, especially if I've got my Crocs in sport mode. But if you want to watch our fantasy football game show tomorrow, Heath Cummings is coming on to play some fantasy football Jeopardy at 3 p.m. Eastern time. You can find that on our YouTube channel at Front Yard Fantasy, or check us out on Twitter at Front Yard FYF, where we will post the links to everything that we're doing. You can find me on Twitter at FYF Simon, where I mainly talk about fantasy football and the occasional digestive issues.
Yeah, I mean, all important stuff. So, hey, thank you everybody who joined us for the show. Thank you everybody who joined us in the draft. Thank you all the Fantasy Alarm members of the world that allow us to do this. Thank you, Matt Deutsch, behind the glass, pulling up the QR codes, making sure everything runs on time. That's going to be it for us. We'll be back on Friday with a little Dynasty talk, but we'll catch you guys later.